I'm about to present to you a video about how to cook the perfect vegan roast dinner. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out exactly as I intended it to, so please be aware of that before moving forward. Hi, it's me, Militant Ginger, and a few months ago I went vegan. And for the most part, I have been having a fantastic time. No issues skipping out the meat and the dairy and stuff like that. There are a couple of things I still miss. Cheese, because cheese is basically like crack. But also roast dinners. Obviously, I'm British. You can't get a more British dish than like a roast beef or a roast lamb or something like that. And I just miss that. So I'm going to come up today with what I think is a pretty good substitute for a roast dinner made using vegan ingredients. So no animal products whatsoever. No meat, no dairy, no eggs, nothing. So here's what you're going to need. Potatoes. Yes, we're going to have roast potatoes. These are going to be delicious and scrummy. Next, a big fat parsnip. Then some carrots. A big fat red onion. And finally, you'll need something to roast.
Oh.
This is called a celebration roast. It's available from Whole Foods. It's made using wheat gluten. Now, the one thing I've realized, being a vegan for a while, is that you cannot get anything remotely like vegan cheese. It's all disgusting. But there are a ton of stuff that is really quite close to meat in pretty much every single way, even down to nutritionally. So this is one of the things. Wheat seitan, and it's formed in the shape of a roast, and it's stuffed with butternut squash, apples, and mushrooms. So this is going to be the center point for our roast. I know a lot of people are like, oh, wheat gluten, that sounds disgusting. Well, trust me, I have a plan to make it taste delicious. So, right, next step, let's get some water boiling. You also want to turn the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and let it warm up for a bit. Okay, while that's boiling, it's time to peel the potatoes. Now, it's up to you whether you decide to peel your potatoes or not. Potatoes are covered in skin, so make sure you wash all the dirt off, obviously. The skin has a ton of really good vitamins and minerals and fiber and stuff like that. So if you're going to be healthy, I would recommend keeping the skins on. Let's do that and cut them into roast potato size chunks. Try not to cut your hands off. There we go. Stick all these in a pot for later. Next, your parsnip. Now you probably will want to peel this because otherwise it's going to taste really gross. Once you're done peeling your parsnip, you want to cut the ends off and then cut it into nice chunks which you can roast. Then get your onion, and then cut it into 4 chunks. And then you actually open up your little roast here and take it out of the plastic. Here comes the fun bit. You get your meaty roast and you place that in the center there. Get some of your onion, break it up, put it on the outside, like that there. A bit more here. Then get the parsnips, throw them in there. Dun. It's looking pretty roasty, isn't it? And finally, the carrots. These are going to be delish. Okay, so to get some real meaty flavour, we're going to put on a bit of olive oil, not too much. Then, tiny bit of salt. Some salt-free seasoning. Always a good idea. It's going to be lovely. Next is the clever bit. This is demerara sugar, brown sugar. We're going to sprinkle a bit of that on the parsnips, and it melts and crystallizes, and it gives a really nice, sweet flavor. Look at that! The water's boiling. So throw your potatoes in there. So you're all smart people. You're probably thinking, hey, I could have figured all that by myself. So this is where it gets clever. What is the quintessential thing about English roast dinners that's absolutely delicious and you can't make without, you know, dairy ingredients and stuff like that? Answer: Yorkshire puddings. Yorkshire puddings are like little puffed up crunchy bundles of heaven. They are fantastic. And unless you're a biochemist with a Nobel Peace Prize in bakery, you generally can't make them without eggs and milk. But we're going to try, because we are very, very clever. So here is what you're going to need for the Yorkshire puddings, which we're going to get to while the rest of the stuff is cooking. You're going to need some flour, some egg replacer. You can buy this pretty much from any Whole Foods or anything like that. A little bit of salt, some apple cider vinegar, some almond milk, and the secret ingredient, beer. So the secret to good Yorkshire puddings is egg. Obviously you can't use egg if you're vegan, so we're going to use this egg replacer. To do that you need 2 tablespoons of egg replacer, and then 4 tablespoons of water, and you mix all that up. Very good. And this is your substitute egg. Now this is great for bakery because it does a lot of the stuff in the baking mix that an egg will do. It has no nutritional similarity to egg whatsoever, so you can't whip it, you can't drink it in your protein shakes, but it does do a good job of making things stick together. So now it's time to start assembling the ingredients for your Yorkshire puddings. We use a nice blender here. So we need a nice big helping of almond milk. I would say use about 300 milliliters. I'm mixing it with the egg replacer because that way, when we put the egg replacer into the blender, it will all come out mixed together. Next you want to add 100 grams of flour. Boom. A tiny drop of apple cider vinegar, just for taste. Boop, boop. There we go, no more than that. Pinch of salt. I use Himalayan sea salt. I love this stuff. And next, the secret ingredient that I told you about, beer. It doesn't have to be Stella Artois, but do be careful what type of beer it is, because some beer isn't actually vegan. Like, did you know Guinness is made with fish oil? But I like Stella. Pour it in there. This is actually a little bit of a cheat, but beer, as you know, has yeast in it, and so that will help make the Yorkshire puddings rise. Obviously you're going to be left off with a nice, healthy helping of beer. So pour that into a chilled glass. The next very important step of our process. Once you've done all that, stick it on your blender. And now we just leave it for a bit. Why do we leave it for a bit? Well, hopefully the beer and the flour will make its nice little arrangement and a little bit ready for making the Yorkshire puddings. But there's plenty to get on with while that's just sitting there. All the time we've been doing that, we've been cooking our potatoes. And let's see, if we squish them now, oh, they're all lovely and soft and squishy. So you want to drain them. We want big frying pan or wok. Lots of lovely olive oil. Switch on to a high heat. So get that oil in there, lovely and hot, and then add all the potatoes. Maybe put a bit of salt with them. Not too much because we're trying to be healthy. Salt-free seasoning. What we're trying to do here is brown the edges and make them lovely and crispy and crunchy. Now obviously we've left the skins on, which causes a bit of an inconvenience because the skins come off, as you see, but they are much healthier, so it's worth it. So we just fry those for a bit. Okay, so once they're all nice and toasted, we transfer them out and stick them in a roasting pan. So now, switch on your oven, open it up, place your delicious looking roast in there, and place your delicious looking potatoes in there. 1 hour left in our cooking process, and this means it's time to open up our bottle of red wine that we're going to have with it. This is a not very expensive bottle of Little Penguin Shiraz, but as my friend Claire will know, I've always been a bit of a fan of full-bodied Australians. So here we go. You should always leave your wine open for about an hour before you drink it, because that is enough of a demonstration of self-control to be able to convince yourself that you're not an alcoholic. Now we're not done yet. While everything else is cooking, we need to add a little bit of cooking oil to each of the things in our Yorkshire pudding pan. You want a nice little bit of oil in each of the little pans. So next, take your pan with the oil in. You don't put your Yorkshire pudding in there yet, and you add it to the oven to get nice and hot. Okay. So we've got about 45 minutes till everything's ready. I could use that time to do something useful like the washing up, or I could open another beer. Cheers. Now's the exciting part. You want to take your Yorkshire pudding pan with the oil in it out of the oven, and the oil should be good and hot. Now the whole secret to this is that the oil is really hot when you add your drops of Yorkshire pudding mix. And once you've done that, you want to transfer the little Yorkshire puddings right back into the oven. We're not done yet. Next comes the gravy. So we want to get a cup of vegetable broth and pour that in. Next, see if you can find a vegan gravy mix and add that. I also like to add one of these non-chicken bouillon cubes. Squish that up, pop that in. And then look, delicious vegan gravy. Here's a roast fresh from the oven, and you cut it just into regular slices, just like a regular roast dinner. And look, a delicious roast dinner, or in gravy and stuff like that. Cheers! Okay folks, I'm gonna level with you. That was an unmitigated disaster. The roast that I cooked, the field roast, and the roast potatoes, they were exquisite. And the gravy was just out of this world. These two things, perfect. The beautiful parsnips, carrots, onions, they look delicious, mouth-watering, but they were all completely inedible because I hadn't cooked them long enough. I think they can be rescued, absolutely, but in terms of the meal that I just cooked, complete disaster. And the Yorkshire puddings, you should have seen them. I put them in the oven and they puffed up like little magic mushrooms, and then they sunk down and collapsed like I don't know, the earnings of Lehman Brothers. And now look at them. I don't even know what they are. Like my darling wife was saying, oh, I'm sure they're not that bad, but it's like, what even are these? They're not, you can't even, they're not even food substance. They're like that bit in The Fly when the dog goes through the trans mat machine and it comes out and it's all squished and stuff like that. That's basically what this is in food form. It was a disaster. But then again, oh, the roast potatoes and the meat soaked in the gravy. So good. And the wine is always flawless. So there we go. I would just like to say that at the end of the day, the wheat roast thing was delicious. The gravy was delicious. The potatoes were exquisite. And after I baked them in the oven for another half an hour, the parsnips and the carrots and the onions were delicious. Yorkshire puddings, complete, unmitigated disaster. But there is potential there. So, this video was of no help to you whatsoever in cooking a vegan roast dinner, but it shows that it can be done. I think in any roast dinner, the most important part of it is obviously going to be the meat, and the fact is that this celebration roast that's made of wheat seitan is, once you douse it in gravy, it's as good as any type of meat you're going to get. It's actually kind of nicer because you don't have the gristle and the fat and stuff like that. The Yorkshire puddings, I'm not going to lie, they're my favourite part of any roast dinner. Completely screwed them up, but I am sure somewhere in there is some science where you can get them right, and I'm going to find it and I will tell you all about it. But you know, we still had a pretty delicious roast dinner at the end of it, and it was completely vegan. So there we go. Not a complete failure, but definitely room for improvement. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.